Ákos Kovács is a Hungarian singer-songwriter, performing artist, and he has been producing chart-topping hits and albums for 30 years. He has headlined all the major festivals in Hungary and filled arenas all over the country. Accumulated sales of his albums are more than 1.5 million copies in a nation of 10 million people. He won various music industry awards, he directed and filmed several video clips, has written theatre music and the soundtrack to the House of Terror Museum. His poetry is also widely known. He has published 5 books, including an audio recording of his poems. He was awarded the highest state honours, the Kossuth Prize, in 2012. He received his MBA degree at Budapest University of Economic Sciences in 1992. He is fluent in English and Italian and the father of 4 children.
Hello, I'm Rod Dreher, a visiting fellow of the Danube Institute, and I'm here with Charles Cooke, Erik Tegnér, and Ákos, the Hungarian pop star. It turns out, Ákos, that being at the top of your game in pop music in this country for decades does not protect you from cancel culture. Can you talk about what happened to you?
You can be an established figure in any profession, and by now it can be known for everybody who's been following this discussion so far or who's been not living under a rock for a couple of decades now. So you can always be attacked, whatever you have been able or capable of doing beforehand. And obviously everybody can make mistakes and then try to recover from them. What's new, and especially if you're not on the so-called liberal side. I'm a conservative guy. I'm a male. My pronouns are he, him, and we don't have the pronoun problem in Hungarian.
Yet.
Probably yet, because that might be one of the reasons why we do not have the same magnitude of the problem as you in the Anglo-Saxon world seem to have it. So obviously I was called a Nazi, just like probably most of us here. Sorry if I took you in the same camp as myself. That was ages ago, and of course I was accused of misogyny, having a wife and 3 daughters. It's a very interesting phenomenon to have, like, I made many mistakes in my life, but hating women is not one of them, I think, as my wife could attest to that. So the thing is, I'm conservative. I live which means normal in my case. If there's any chance of understanding the same thing under the word normal these days, because when you say normal, then you can be attacked for that as well. What constitutes as normal? What do you think normal is? Do you think you're normal? Is anybody normal? These are the questions that come up all the time, and you might have encountered them too. So I think there is something called normality or normalcy, and so this means if you're not radical, you might be normal. And you might be abnormal as well if you're not radical, but if you're radical, you're not normal.
But so pop stars can have extreme opinions, and it doesn't affect their career. Pop stars can go to rehab. Pop stars can behave quite radically in ways that would have been 50, 60 years ago, been the end of your career. And actually, in fact, now it could give your career a boost. Where are the lines, where are the landmines that you can step on as someone involved in popular music or popular film, popular culture? Where are the dangerous landmines?
Douglas Murray has this book out about the madness of crowds, and the landmines are male-female relations, homosexuality, and so forth. He lists them all. And I think all over the place, all over the globe, it's the same landmine. It's like walking through a field full of landmines. But these are the same landmines. But after a while, you are, if there's a question posed to you, what should you do? You should swirl and twirl and try to divert the question, or should you answer the question? And when they ask you directly about if is there a male role in society? Is there a female role in society? And if you can consider that question at face value and you try to answer it normally, then you'd say, in my opinion, especially if you were me, and I am me on better days, that there is such a thing as a male role, and there is such a thing as a female role. This is, constitutes as the principles of the sexes, which nowadays somehow seem to differ from
Here's
gender.
something that's so extraordinary about, and I think you'll
There's
all
nothing
agree with me.
extraordinary about it.
No, about our time, though, that the Rolling Stones could come up with Under My Thumb, which was openly, unquestionably misogynist. They were hailed as transgressive bad boys in the first rock and roll era. Now we have gotten, our popular culture has become so incredibly puritanical, although not puritanical in the sense that the early Puritans would recognize. I think that's an extraordinary change within popular culture, don't you?
I do. And it shows that the whole thing's built on sand, but what I wonder is who tried to cancel you? Did you notice any drop-off from your fans, or was this purely an elite phenomenon? Was this the news? Was this journalists? Was this interviewers? Or did you get letters from people who bought your records or liked your work and said, well, I no longer want to listen to you?
The first step, it was journos exclusively, and they tried to get hold of the narrative and tried to give a meaning to what I said, which I did not have in mind, and my words never meant that, and they still don't. But they could convince some of their readers that what I said was something really bad, and they tried to cancel me in a way that first they talked my sponsor, a big company, into dropping me on the very day of my big concert. So they were putting pressure on me, and first they put pressure on me, and then my fans, and then on the sponsors. With the fans, they've had no luck whatsoever, and this is my luck too. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm around. When they called me a Nazi, I said to myself, Jesus Christ, what have I done now? Because if you were brought up the way I was, my father told me off when I did something wrong, you know. So it's like there's a way of the way normal people are brought up. When you do something wrong, you're told off. When you do something right, they, get pat on the back, to say the least. When you're told off, there must have been something that you've done wrong. This is the way I was brought up. So I was thinking, Jesus, probably I said something. And then it turns out I didn't say anything. It's the narrative they try to, distort to the extent that people think there is something wrong with what you said, which is just crazy. And, first you search your soul, and then you realize that there was nothing really wrong with what I said, and I really meant it, and that is my opinion, and my opinion never hurt anybody. And then, so that was the first stage that was in 2003, I think, the Nazi thing. And then there were articles about this, and I was really shocked by it, and then I realized that the audience, which I call my audience, the part of the audience that listens to my stuff, just found it ridiculous, and they just laughed it off.
It seems like though you were too big to cancel in a way, whereas because you've been successful for many years, but a younger artist would have been far more vulnerable to this.
I think I was vulnerable to this as well. So when you're exposed to such a magnitude of attacks, like many publications come at you at once at the same time, and they all, just perpetuate the lie, and then to say it again and again, and it just drives them nuts, and it drives their fantasies, and they write, they try to say bigger and bigger bad things about you, and then they go into la-la land with the whole thing. And that's where the whole situation turned around. Because whenever in the past I was attacked like that, it's pretty common in this field of work, which I was not aware of, had not been aware of when I started out. You might say this is what the job comes with. Never true, because you don't know what the job comes with. You don't even know if it's a job. It's a conviction in a way.
Right.
So
it's a vocation.
It's a vocation. So you realized that you have to make up with all these negative effects as well, with you being famous and so forth. And then, but there's a limit there until which you do not respond. First rule is never back down. Never, ever give an inch. if you have to apologize for your wrongdoing, because there are wrongdoings, you apologize to your wife, you apologize to your kids, your family, if you've done something wrong, you apologize to God, which is an unquestionable authority, but you never apologize to people who do not have the right to force you, to bludgeon you to apologizing.
Were you supported by your friends, your family? What did the people who knew you say about it?
A situation like this really tells you about your friends. Who stand by you, who stood by me are my real friends. Now I know who those are. Not that I hadn't known before, but now I can be sure. I can be sure who to lean on, who to trust in a situation like that. And the response of the audience was really interesting. So the people who were pressured into hating me in a way, especially online when you can do it facelessly, those were not the fans. They were never bought a record from me. They would, and plus they wanted to. This is a tactic that. This is how you, if you hate animals, this is how you treat your dog. They bludgeon you into submission. And the great public, so to speak, was not game. They tried, there was an action to have the people give back their tickets and want their money back. And just on the very day when the concert came up, there was a huge concert in one of the biggest arena in Budapest and in Hungary. And we had a double date. And not one ticket was brought back to the ticket office. Not one, because of this. That's in a way, it is a victory, but that's not the way you want to be victorious.
So do you find yourself tempted not to speak about anything outside of music? There's a difference between not backing down.
Not at all. I'm here.
Okay.
Speaking about it. So.
But there's no point. You don't find yourself tempted, and then you have to get past it and do it anyway, or it's not even a temptation.
Well, I survived, so in a way, it is a task to speak up. Because there are many younger artists who have nobody to speak up for them. And I'm speaking up for them as well. So unto a certain level, you do not respond because you think it's just below a certain line. I mean, you shouldn't respond. But there comes a time when you have to respond and you have to stand up for yourself. And it's very important that you expose them for the liars that they are.
You and I are old enough, barely, to remember the punk movement, the emergence of the punk movement in the UK, and which spread across America. And this was they didn't care what people thought of them. They said what they believed. I was reminded last year, there was a picture of Johnny Rotten, formerly of the Sex Pistols, a leading punk band, with wearing a MAGA t-shirt. In his house in California.
Yeah, so that's old enough
that's
to do
very
that now.
punk, is it?
It's very punk now.
So what all of that is background to say, what sort of response would you like to see? Would you think would be a healthy response from popular artists, musicians, filmmakers, things like that, to this cancel culture? How might popular artists turn this around?
Well, most of them go along.
Yeah.
It's a very monocultural space to be in a way. It's almost like a hive mind or a group think. And if you talk out of the choir, so to speak. So it's very interesting. So if you want to stand out now, I used to say this whenever I had an interview, like if you want to rebel, like really rebel, you don't have to be rebellious for that, because to be conservative is the greatest new phenomenon of rebellion, in my belief. Like to be normal, that's rebellion these days, when cancel culture is rampant and is all over the place, and it's a group think, and you have academia, the so-called elites, whom I do not in any sense consider elite. They march to the same beat. So why would you march along? Especially if your convictions are different, especially if you were brought up different. Why should you do that? Just because they try to bludgeon you into submission? No way, not with me.
I would like to share you an example, a recent example coming from France, and I would like to have your opinion about it. You know, in France there is a very famous rap singer who made a lot of music against France with a lot of hate things in it. You know, for example, he just asked people to kill Marine Le Pen or to kill Eric Zemmour. And this rap singer has just been chosen this week to sing our national hymn for the next Euro football competition. And that's why I'm saying, you know, I'm very shocked by what you live, because in another way, a lot of singers say words very hard and very dangerous for population, and they are not criticized like you. They are showed like models for the young generation.
I think it's horrible, and it's not for me, and it's just stupid of the elites or whoever choose this guy to sing the national anthem. It's just crazy. That's submission. That's what they want. They have their stormtroopers in media. They have their stormtroopers in culture. Culture is just essential in trying to convince people of something that is not for their own good, or especially against their own good. So that's what they use these figures for.
Ákos, thank you so much for your thoughts. And Eric, Charles, thank you very much. And thank you for listening.